Spirit of God in the clear running water, blowing to greatness the trees on the hill. Blow, blow, blow till I be but breath of the Spirit flowing in me.
Welcome. You're watching Spirit of Life. Norm Currie is my name. I'm your host for today. And in this section, we're looking at the role of love in our lives as it emerges momentarily every day. And we're speaking today with Norman Rose, who's an Anglican member of the Volunteers of God, which is a branch of the Focolare Movement, and is also a retired psychiatrist, so we get some interesting insights through Norman. Norman, we were talking last week, and you've got this interesting process of having been Jewish and then strongly emerging into being Anglican, and running parallel with that was with the Focolare, or is the Focolare movement. You're in the process of talking about your involvement with the Anglican movement. Could you continue with that, please?
After the priest that I was helping to look after died, sometime after that, a priest who had followed him asked me to help him at the altar, become an altar server.
Yeah.
And I was happy to do that. It was only a number of years later that yet another priest told me that it had been Father Anthony, the priest who had died from cancer, it had been his dying wish that I should serve at the altar.
Oh, really?
So I've continued serving at the altar. I still do. Now, some years ago, there was some unrest and difficulty within our church's parish council. The priest of the time asked me to join and to become what in our church are church wardens. Church wardens in the Anglican Church are lay officials who look after the running of the church.
Yep.
And I was asked to do that, and I was asked to join the parish council, and I saw as my mission to give unity to this parish council which had been damaged and hurt.
Yep.
And that was my mission. My mission was also to help the priest, because as volunteers of God, we're asked to work in the world where we work, in our parishes everywhere, and our mission is to bring love and unity to those places. So that's what I did. And in fact, I'm still serving on the parish council. I was also asked to become a synod representative. Now, in our church, each diocese is independent, and each diocese has a yearly synod. In the synod, there are two houses, the houses of the laity and the houses of the clergy.
Yep.
And we all have voting rights. So I'm part of that, and I've been part of that for 5, 6, 7 years, something like that.
Yep.
Now, our diocese of Wangaratta, was the one that initiated a blessing for those married outside of the church. And of course, nowadays that also applies to gay people
Right.
who are married outside of the church. So our church wanted to initiate a blessing for those people.
Yeah.
At 2 successive synods during which we discussed this, I got up and spoke in favour of that, because part of my background as a psychiatrist
Yes.
is that I was an expert in sexology.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm one of the few people in Australia who are members of the American College of Sexologists.
Okay. Yeah.
And as such, I felt that it was important to support a blessing
Yeah.
for all people married
All
outside
people,
of the
yeah.
church, including gay people.
Yeah.
So that was part of what happened.
And there's an underpinning there, though. It seems as though love has played a lot of place in your doing that. Where was the love in that?
Oh, I think the love in that is for those people who are abandoned, gay people.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what Jesus would have done.
Yes. Yes. That's right. Reaching out and loving all.
All.
Yeah.
Without question.
Yeah. 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 So the parallel then runs across into the Focolare movement, doesn't it?
Yes.
Because that's what
our
the
mission
main
is
mission
in life, is
yes.
to bring love
Yeah.
and unity to the world.
Yeah, yeah. So your role as a volunteer of God, are you satisfied that you're fulfilling that?
Well, I mean, nobody is perfect in fulfillment. We all do our best.
Yeah. No, it looks to me as though you're actually exploiting every opportunity you have to do that, because what you're talking about there is a really central issue to love itself. It's very, very encouraging. So the Focolare movement, we're just about to run out of time, so we'll go back to the Focolare movement and talk more deeply about that. Thanks, Norman. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Spirit of Life, and we're speaking with Norman Rose, who's a volunteer of God with the Focolare Movement and also a retired psychiatrist. Before the break, we were talking about the Focolare Movement and love itself, and you alluded to the fact that a lot of this arose in your experience in psychiatry. Could you give us some stories and examples of that?
I'm not sure if it arose in my experience in psychiatry, although, I mean, I've been exposed to some remarkable teachers, if you like,
Yes.
in the field, and I don't think any of them would have talked about love or whatever, but certainly what they did would be regarded as acts of love.
Acts of
and I
love.
think those deeply affected me. I mean, for me, loving the other in my work has been so important. Now, Chiara also taught us to make ourselves one with the other, that is, to put ourselves in the shoes
Yeah.
of the other. But more importantly, I think, was Chiara's emphasis on Jesus on the cross, what she called Jesus forsaken,
Yeah.
abandoned by God.
Yeah.
And so we are asked to see that in ourselves and in others.
In others, yeah.
Now, for me as a psychiatrist, this meant seeing that suffering Jesus in the other, the patient.
Yes.
Now, I think that making yourself one, seeing that suffering in the other, can best be done, or perhaps only be done, when you have a strong sense of self.
Yeah.
When you can temporarily abandon yourself
Yeah.
and make yourself to identify with that other person.
Yeah.
And that is no threat because you are strong in yourself.
That's right. Yep.
So to see that suffering in the other person.
Yeah.
So that's been very, very important in my whole career as a psychiatrist. And there have been amazing fruits
Yeah.
of that sort of approach, that sort of attitude. And in my book, I think the best example is that of somebody that I saw when I was doing medico-legal psychiatry.
Yep.
And when I was acting, if you like, as a medical tribunal, because for the purposes of determining what we call impairment, because that's the gateway to compensation and whatever, and we were appointed to do that sort of thing. Now, I saw this woman who had experienced a horrific thing at work. She had seen something that was so much against everything that she taught. She was a Christian.
Yeah.
And it went against everything that she knew. As a result of that, she developed a severe psychiatric illness, and I was asked to assess her. Now, as part of what I did, I had to go through hundreds of pages of documents, of evidence, if you like, reports from other doctors, both from the plaintiff solicitors and both from the defendant solicitors, all these documents. And all of these psychiatric experts described this woman as being so chaotic that they could hardly get a history from her. Absolutely chaotic. I sat with her and she gradually gave her history. Now, I was required by law to give her a fair and just hearing.
Yep.
And because of that, I had to let her know what others had said about her.
Yep.
So I said to her, other psychiatrists have said that you've been chaotic and that they couldn't understand you, and yet you've given a clear story to me. Why? And I was absolutely surprised by her reply.
Yep.
I thought you must be a priest or a saint.
Really?
Really.
Okay. And that caused her to open.
She opened up.
Yeah. And so when she recognised that, what do you think would have been the key to that? What's the central...
The key to that is that she felt that I was listening to her and that she was understood.
And the implication from that is that you were loving her, that you were
Absolutely.
open and loving.
Absolutely. This is the fruit of love.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Whereas the other psychiatrists may well have been very good at their profession, but they'd missed that one little bit, which is the critical one. That's fascinating. And so that was a very interesting story. We'll need to get a few more of those. We're out of time for the moment, though. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Spirit of Life. We're speaking with Norman Rose, who's a volunteer of God and a retired psychiatrist. Norman, we were talking about interfaith and multiculturalism and multi-ethnicity, and you've got a pretty big story of that in your own family.
Oh yeah, our family's the epitome of all of that. Let me just explain. You know, I've already described myself as coming from a Jewish background. My wife Anne comes from an Australian Anglican background. My son married a Japanese woman, Shinto, Buddhist, comes from a very, very traditional Japanese family.
Yeah.
Anne and I, my wife and I, adopted 2 children from overseas.
Mm-hmm.
The first from South Korea, the second from Thailand.
Yeah.
One of my wife's cousins, a nephew married a Hindu Indian woman.
Mm-hmm.
One of her nieces married a Shia Muslim from Iraq.
Right, okay.
We are truly multi-ethnic. One of the things that I studied years ago for a few years was prehistory anthropology.
Yep.
And as part of that, I learned to take other cultures as they were without prejudice.
Yep.
Furthermore, Chiara Lubick, of whom I've spoken about, the foundress of the Focolare Movement, always taught us to love each other's religion as our own.
Yeah.
And for me, that's been very important, to love people of different ethnic or religious background.
Yep.
And one of the things is that if I don't know something about them, I ask.
Yes. Yep.
Professionally, this was very important when I saw people from different countries, from different ethnic backgrounds and so forth. So I'll just give you one example of how this worked for me. Many years ago, I was attending a meeting of the Anglicans of the Focolare Movement in London.
Mm-hmm.
And on the plane, I was sitting next to 2 people with very alternative dress.
Mm-hmm.
And some hours into the flight, one of them said to me, "We're Hare Krishnas."
Right.
Ah.
Yeah.
And they told me how they're going to an ashram in England, and then on the return they're going to go to another ashram in India before coming back to Australia.
Yeah.
How they were working with drug-affected people in Australia.
Mm.
I said, that's very interesting. I'm going to a religious meeting in London.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to share, and we were able to talk for a large proportion of that very long journey to London.
Yeah.
Because we accepted each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we had that in common. And Chiara always taught us to seek the things that we have in common and to build unity on that basis.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And the line of loving all is strong in the Hare Krishna belief structure.
Yeah.
So there would have been Focolare and Hare Krishna would tie together quite comfortably.
We tied together.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it's so as a mantra, and I'm now going into Hinduism, etc., but as a mantra, would your mantra be the Focolare belief that to how does it go? To love all, to love, how would you put it?
Yeah, to
Is
love
your
all,
mantra.
because we're
Yeah.
all brothers and sisters.
Yeah, yeah.
We're all
Yeah.
we're all children of the one Father, the one God the Father. We're all children
Yeah.
of the one Father.
So that's the premise of your. Would it be accurate to say that that's the premise of your thought process, in the sense that when you were doing your psychiatry, that the person sitting opposite to you, you're extending out to them the recognition of actually, and I just use this in who they are with a capital W, who they are, and in that structure of being from the one love.
Yeah. You know, the word for God is I am.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
each of us has God in us. Each of us is that I am.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, critical. And once again, that ties over into psychiatry, because if you're dealing with someone who's got issues with their thought process, by attaching them to some understanding of the I am, has that helped in...
That helps.
Yes.
That helps. Now, having said that, there is much of psychiatry, of course, which goes beyond that, and which is in the realm of pathology. It's in the realm of illness.
Yeah.
So that we have to look at that professionally.
Yes.
To look at that, and that's very, very important for us professionally, because we have to be who we are. We're doctors after all.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
But it goes beyond that. You know, very, very early in my medical training, I was taught about bedside manner.
Yep.
I wonder how relevant that is today.
Yes.
And what we're talking about in recognising the other person, making ourselves one with the other person, is in a way bedside manner.
Absolutely it is. And our bedside manner now is to say that we're actually out of time. Reluctantly, I have to say that. Norman, thank you so much for the insights that you've given through this interview, and very much like to approach you again sometime, when you've got some time, to carry through some more of this interview in relation to that basic principle of love itself. Thank you so much. You've been watching Spirit of Life, and we will be back next week. And thanks for watching. Bye for now.